Well, hello folks, and welcome to today's episode of Tricks Takeout Triptych Show. Today I'm going to tell you a story. A story written by me and based loosely on fact. The Seasons of Love. Argument. Why is the measure of love loss? Why is everything judged by pain? One can say that one loves, but one will never know how much love one has until it is gone. Love is like a single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. Its value becomes fully apparent only after one sees the hole that it leaves. When one looks at the complete puzzle, he never focuses on the individual pieces, only on the image in its entirety. But when even a single piece is missing, that whole dominates the viewer's attention. The truth is that the measure of love is loss. But why? The recession of summer. The month is early November, and the trees have shed their pale canopies like straw hats. All foliage has died and rotted to the point of brown, but the snow is late this year. It is yet to cover the landscape in its frigid blanket. And she is gone. He knows this, and he knows that it is the cause of his despair. And such is the cause of the late snow. She has gone with the seasons, fled along with the wind, and probably with some new lover. No, he thinks, she would never do such a thing to me. But the thought of the wind triggers a memory. A memory of that other fateful wind that once blew through their hair whilst they lay together atop the quilt of fallen leaves. Leaves that were the children of that grim September. He still remembers how beautiful she looked. He remembers her hair, auburn with tints of red and orange throughout, cut so that it was only a few centimeters long. Back then, his hair had been a brilliant robin's egg blue, with dark splashes of leafy green, and he had let it grow long. But now, though still long, his mane was an ugly, white-gray color that contrasted her hair as drastically as a salt lick does a ruby. And he remembers her breath, a cool, pleasant breeze that caressed his cheek. His breath was just a frigid, bitter winter gale that brutally slapped away any face it happened to touch. I guess we just weren't made for each other, he mumbles softly. He thinks about how she was a work of art, and how he must have dimmed her perfection. He thinks of how she was a shining star, and how he just swallowed up her brilliance. I guess we just weren't made for each other, he repeats with a choked voice. I guess you just don't love me anymore. He remembers lying with her in bed, side by side with the love of his life. Remembers the way that she smelled, the wonderful scent of damp, brown leaves and cool swaths of healing wind. He remembers going places with her. Remembers his quixotic way of opening doors for her, and the small, flattered, jovial laugh that she would always give in response to his doing so. He remembers, and he weeps. As the tears stream from his eyes, the temperature of the room drops tremendously and frost appears on everything. Eventually, even the tears freeze on his face, turning the small droplets into glimmering shards of diamond. And he curls up in a corner, away from the center of the room, to be alone with his tears. As the tears continue to fall, and as the frost begins to turn to ice, the outside of the tree that serves as his home is dying. And there is a frame standing on the table beside his bed, and in it there lies one frost-bitten photo of his lover sitting cross-legged with a sketch pad in her lap. And he remembers something that he had to tell someone a very long time ago, something that hurt almost as much as this did. And he whispers, not to her, but to himself, I don't want to touch your heart. I don't know where it's been. The resting place of autumn. And from far above, amid the clouds and thunderstorms, she watches. She watches his outburst with an expression full of pain on her face, and she shakes her head. She cannot be joyous, not when the one that she loves is suffering so. For she does still love him, no matter what he thinks, and she will always love him. But he has forgotten the reason she had to leave. Oh well, her mind scolds her. What did you expect? He forgets every year. Every year he forgets that she must leave him. Not because she doesn't love him, but because that is the way the world works. If she had the choice to stay with him, she would, but she does not have that option. So she watches him, shivering and trembling in the corner of his room, and she too begins to weep. No matter how evasive her maneuvers, she cannot avoid this horrible ache that cannibalistically devours the heart that gave it birth. That's a good one, she thinks. The matricide of the soul. Her tears are a sweet golden brown, and they turn her cheeks sticky, as if with sugar. She sticks out her tongue and catches one of them before it drizzles past her lips. Her tears both smell and taste of fresh cider. I love you, my darling, I truly do. I promise this isn't my decision. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, she sobs fitfully. I'm so sorry. Rejoining and rejoice. 6 months later, in late May. There are really only 2 seasons. Summer and autumn. Winter is the depression that summer feels when autumn is taken away from him. And spring is his reawakening. He is still cowering in the corner when he hears someone open the door to his room, but he doesn't even lift his head to identify the newcomer. However, as he hears footsteps approaching his huddled form, his curiosity supersedes his apathy. He stares through the sheet of frozen tears that covers his eyes, and, through the wavering pattern, can make out a pair of feet, clad in soft leather, striding towards him. Wherever the feet fall, the frost-coated ground melts, giving the walker a wide, circular berth. He feels a pair of hands on his shoulders, and, were he able to stiffen, he would. He still cannot see the phantom owner of this mysterious quartet of hands and feet, and that makes him nervous. But then the bare arms wrap around him, oblivious to the cold from both the room and the living ice sculpture that they are embracing. And he hears a voice whisper in his ear, "I'm home, darling." At first he does not recognize the voice, but as soon as he does, he believes that he is hallucinating. It can't be her. She's gone, he thinks desperately. And of course, right on cue, something blasts that thought from his mind like a pressure washer stuck in his ear. The pair of lips that belong to the phantom appendages embracing him drifts down until they reach his own ice-coated mouth. Even though he can now see who this intruder is, the kiss that those lips deliver dispels any need for visual confirmation. It is her. The frost-covered ice that coats every part of his body begins to melt, and soon there are streams of water running down his form. But he is impatient. She stands back as he blinks, breaking the ice coating his eyes, and starts to stand. Shattered ice falls away from him in chunks as he moves for the first time in 6 months, and blinks the sharp, cold shards of ice from his eyes. Finally he stands, fully thawed and yet soaked through to the marrow. But all he does is gaze, stupefied, at his long-absent lover and throw his arms about her. He begins to cry again, but this time his tears do not freeze. Not even the coldest winter wind can freeze tears of joy. His hair has returned to its original crystalline blue, and finally things are right again. The pair of elemental Aegelons remain wrapped in each other's arms for what seems like an eternity, until he pulls away to gaze at her face. The reflection of his pain has already fled his own countenance. He kisses her, his once violet lips now full of color, and the rest of the world awakens from an unusually harsh winter, only to be thrown headfirst into summer. For he has found his autumn, and nothing can part that kind of true love. At least, not until next November.